Hello friends, we have started a new series in English. First topic we are discussing about the Adam Smith. Second video, the most greatest theoretical economist of the all time, David Ricardo. And this is the third video on Amartya Kumar Sen, who winner of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science in 1998 and Bharat Ratna in 1999. In this series, we will discuss every sides of the greatest economics about his thoughts, his life up and downs, and how they achieve the success in this field. As an economist, they analyze the various topics related to how the country get more growth related GDP, per capita income, production, distribution, and consumption, and how they achieve and make the new theory for the nation growth. Amartya Kumar Sen, born in 3rd November 1933, Shantiniketan in India, Indian economist who was awarded the 1998 Nobel Prize in Economic Science for his contribution to the welfare economics and social choice theory, and for his interest in the problem of the society poorest members. Sen was the known for his work on the causes of famine, which lead to development of the practical solution for the preventing for limiting effect of the real or perceived shortage of food. Amartya Sen was educated in Presidency College in Calcutta. He went on the study at Trinity College in Cambridge, where he received BA degree in 1955 and MA degree he achieved in 1959. Also, he got a PhD in 1959. He taught economics at the number of the universities in India and England, including the London School of Economics, the University of the London, and the University of Oxford. Before he moving to Howard University in time period 1988 to 1998, where he was the professor of the economic and philosophy. In 1998, he was the appointed Master of Trinity College in Cambridge, a position he held until 2004 when he returned to Howard as the Lomond University as a professor. To know more about Amartya Sen, his full name is Amartya Kumar Sen. He is Indian economist and philosopher, born in 3rd November 1933. Present age is 89. He come from Bengali Hindu family in Shantiniketan from Bengal. Nationality is Indian. Citizenship is USA. He work in field welfare economics, social welfare theory, development economics. His contribution is mainly human development theory, entitlement approach to famine. He is awarded got it in Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science in 1998 and Bharat Ratna in 1999. Welfare economics seek to evaluate economic policies in terms of their the effect on the well-being of the community. Sen, who devoted his career to such issue, was called the conscience of his professions. His influential monograph, Collective Choice and Social Welfare in 1970, which addressed problems such as individual rights, majority rules, and the availability of the information about the individual condition, inspired researchers to turn their the attention to the issue of the basic welfare, send device method of the measuring the poverty that they yield useful information for the providing economic condition for the poor. For instance, his theoretical work in inequality provided the explanation for why there are the fewer human than men in some poor countries in the spite of the fact that the more women than men are born, the infant mortality in higher among the males. Sen claimed that his skewed ratio result from this the better health treatment and the childhood opportunities offered to the boy in those countries. Amartya Sen's interest in the famine stemmed from the personal experience. As the 9 years old boy, he witnessed the Bengal famine in 1943, in which the 3 million people perished. This the staggering loss of life was unnecessary. Sen later concluded he is believed that there was a adequate food supply in India at the time of, but that is the distribution was the hindered because a particular group of the people, in this case rural labor, lost their the jobs and therefore their the ability to purchase the food. In his book Poverty and Famines, in essay on the entitlement and derivations in 1981, Sen revealed that in the many cases of the famine, food supply were not significantly reduced. Instead, the number of the social and economic factors, such as declining wages, unemployment, rising food price, and poor food distribution system, lead to the starvation among the certain group in society. Government and international organizations handling the food crisis were the influenced by the Sen's work. His view encourages policymakers to the pay attention not only the alleviating immediate suffering but also the finding the way to replace the lost income of the poor. As for example, through the public work project and the maintaining the stable price for the food. A vigorous defender of the political freedom, Sen believed that the famine do not occur in the functioning democracies because they are the leader must be more responsive to the demand for the citizens. In order of the economic growth to be achieved, the argue social reform such the empowerment in the education and public health must proceed economic reform. Amartya Sen was the member of the Encyclopedia Britannia editorial board of the advisors from 2005 to 2007. In 2008, in India donated $4.5 million to Harvard University to establish the Amartya Sen Fellowship Fund to enable deserving the Indian student to study at the institutions of the Graduate School of Arts and Science. Amartya Sen, the other writing included Development as the Freedom in 1999 and Rationally and Freedom in 2002 and discuss of the social choice theory. The argumentative Indian writing on the history, culture and identity in 2005. Ed Sutra, Untold Stories from the India in 2008. Collection of the essay on the AIDS crisis in India and the ideas of the justice in 2009. Critics of the existing theories of the social justice. Amartya Sen studied the famine in the various parts of the world and point out that they sometimes occurred in when there was no decline in the food output. Some famine occurred when the real income in specific group fell so that this group could not longer afford buy food. In such cases, most economists would advocate the giving the money to the such people so that they could buy the food and make their the own trade of the between the food and other things. Amartya Sen study in famine in the various parts of the world and point out that if the something occurred when there was no decline in food output. Some famine occurred when the real income of the specific group fell so that this the group could no longer afford to buy food. In such cases, most economists would advocate giving the money to the such the people so that they could buy food and make their the own trade of the between food and other things. But Amartya Sen thought though no stronger believer in the economic freedom, defended this the standard economist view and the argue might lead against the price control on the food because the such control would reduce the amount of the food produced. Amartya Sen also wrote article in 1990 and 1992 in which they argued that there were 100 million female in China and India and other Asian countries. Then there should be have been the assume the responsibility that this was the because of discrimination against the woman by men by government. Many wondered in this the Chinese government's one child policy might be one of these culprits behind this missing woman phenomenon. More recent research thoughts now found that this the about the half of the female undercount can be explained. Without the resort of the female mortality, it's turned out the women who are the carriers hepatitis B tend to more boys than girls, and that the incidence of the hepatitis B is higher in these the Asian countries. This is a very important topic. Amartya Sen capability approach. This capability approach is defined by its choice of the focus upon the moral significations of individuals, capability of the achieve the kind of the life they have reason to value. This distinguishes it from more established approach to the ethical evaluation, such the utilitarianism or resourceism, which focus the exclusively and objectively well-being or the availability of the means the goods life, respectively. A person's capability to live a good life defined in the term of the set of the valuable being and doing the like, being in the good health or having the loving relationship with the other to the which they have the real access. The capability approach was the first articulated by the Indian economist and philosopher Amartya Sen in the 1980s, and they remain most closely associated with him. It has been the employed ex- extensively in the context of the human development, for example, by the United Nations Development Programme as the broader, deeper, alternative and narrowly economic metrics such the growth in GDP, per capita income. Here, poverty is understood as the deprivation in the capability to live a good life, and development the understood a capability expansion. Within the academic philosophy of the novel focus of the capability approach has attracted a number of the scholars. It is seen to be a relevant for the moral evolutions of the social arrangement beyond the development context. For the example, for the considering the gender justice are to the distributed. The philosopher Martha Nussbaum has provided the most influential version of this the capability theory of the justice, deriving from the requirement of the human dignity is the list of the central capabilities to be incorporated into national constitutions and guaranteed to all up to the certain there should. This article focuses on this the philosophical aspect of this the capability approach and foundation in the work of the Amartya Sen. It discussed the development and the structure of the Sen's account, how it they related to other ethical approaches and the main contribution and the criticisms. It's also the outline various capability theories development within the capability approach with the particular attention to the that of the Martha Nussbaum. Amartya Sen had an extensive background in the development economics, social choice theory, for which they received the 1998 Nobel Prize in Economics and Philosophy before developing the capability approach during the 1980s. This background can be understanding and assessing Sen's capability approach because of this complementary between the Sen's contribution these the different field. Sen most influential and comprehensive account of his capability approach development as the freedom in 1999, helping the synthesis in the accessible way many these the particular and often the quite the technical contribution. Amartya Sen note that his approach has strong conceptual connection with Aristotle's understanding of the human flourishes. This was the initial foundation of the Nussbaum's alternative capability theory. With Adam Smith and the Karl Marx, Karl Marx discussed the importance of the functioning and the capability for the human well-being. For example, Sen often the cites Smith's analysis of the relative poverty in the wealth of nation, the terms of how the country wealth and the different cultural norms affected which the material goods were the understood to be necessity. Sen also the site Marx Foundation concern with the replacing of the domination of the circumstance and the changes over the individual by the dominations of the individual over the changes and circumstance. The capability approach attempt to the address various the concept that the saints had about the contemporary approaches to the evolution of the well-being. Mainly, first, individual can the differ greatly in their the abilities to the convert the same resources into the valuable functioning. Second, people can internalize the harshness of their the circumstance so that they do not the desire what they can never the expect to the achievements. Third, whether or not the people take up the option they have, the fact that they not have the valuable option in signification. And fourth, reality is a complicated and evaluation should reflect that complexity rather than take the shortcut by the excluding all sorts of the information from the consideration in advance. Amartya Sen to the main contribution in economy in poverty and famine. Amartya Sen Poverty and Famines as the essay is the Sen on the entitlement and deprivations in 1981 in both the theoretical and applied work. In this essay, several famines have been the study in the working of the general theoretical framework from a original angle. He examined various meaning of the poverty and drew attention to the incident of the absolute and the relative deprivation. He related the head count ratio of the poverty to the measure of inequality of deprivation of the people below the poverty line, saying identical various causes that lead to the different famine and the demonstration that the decline in the aggregate food availability is not the primary causes. Sen give the very interesting data on how the with the relative rise in the rice price and the collapse of the rural labor entitlement of the purchasing the rice. There was the relative fall in the price of the number and other commodities. Amartya Sen theory led to the controversy on the whether food availability decline was not the causes of the Bengal famine. The two factors which has the highlighted are the adverse effect of the poor and steep the rise in the price due to the inflation of the currency by the government and the reductions of the market supplies due to speculative hoarding which also the help to the boost price the further. Some dispute the thesis that the aggregate food decline was the chief factor causing the famine. The Nobel Committee has correctly appreciated the Sen's analysis of this mechanism of the famine, which is the important in its irrespective of this controversy concerning empirical causes of the famine. The Nobel Committee has done well in the identifying the Amartya Sen as the leading the international economist of the modern time who has addressed himself to the study in the famine and hunger in different parts of the world. This play for the regular assure food entitlement and these avoidance of the inflation should surely be the welcome in the poor countries. Third important contribution in poverty and inequality. Sin has carried out the massive work in the poverty and inequality in India. Sin's major point has been that the gap simplicity approach will not do. The distribution of the income and consumption among the person below the poverty line is to be taken into account. One has to assume that the initial distribution below the poverty line will remain the more and less unchanged. Skewed the distribution below the poverty line, the larger will be the Sain's gap. The Sain produced the neat formula termed as the poverty measure known as the Sain's index. Amartya Sen measured the sensitivity of the changes in distribution parameter in the poverty line groups and changes in the prices index of the wages goods, changes in the relative prices wages goods due to the productivity changes in the later, etc. Amartya Sen viewed that the causes of the poverty in India are illiteracy, poor healthcare, unemployment, bureaucratic administration, etc. An illiterate person can the hardly engage himself in the production in the service. He modern means of the livelihood. Sin, Sen has suggested the removal of the illiteracy, malnutrition, unemployment, etc. within the specific time period. He found that the unequal distribution of the wealth and the income or concentration of the wealth in the favor hand. Illiteracy were the causes of the poverty in the countries like the India. In India system, women members of the family are the deprived of the sufficient food, medical facilities, etc. From the record of the death during the period of this famine, he found that among the victims of the number of the women surpasses the male counterparts. Old women and female children die in the larger number. Next contribution in concept of the capability. The concept of capabilities developed by the Sen has been the site of the better index of the well-being than the commodities or utilities. Capability, as defined by the Sen, the ability to transform the raw system primary goods to the achievement of the well-being. Capability of the human being is the ability of the functioning in the different capabilities in a society such that the enable him to the achieve the components or the constitutional of his well-being. Such the functioning of the ability concretely implies access to the adequate and the nutritious food. Some measurement are the general and the probability technical education, medical and healthcare facilities and the measure of the security regarding the available of these the above. Sen has the help to the indicate the indicators of the regarding the above the human development index. A separate capability index of the different countries has also been the developed. Capability include also the environmental of the freedom of the choice and ability to make the use of the various freedom. Capability is the power of the attainment of this the desire of the welfare state of the individuals. Sen has argued that the poverty is a result of capability failures. Sen has a wide-ranging critics of the conventional welfare economic on the account of the neglect of the capabilities dimension. His idea in this area of the continuously evolving and further the breakthrough many expected. Capability is a normative concept. Capability develop the involve the cost of society through the benefit make the exceed the cost. If capability is the deemed as the measure of the surplus in the human being, classical economics analysis can be applied to it. Next contribution in entitlement. The concept of the entitlement in the United States refer to the legally enforceable right against the state like those the old age pension. Sen has included into the concept of the entitlement item like the nutritious food, medical and health care, employment, security of the food supply in times of the famine, etc. He consideration famine rising out to the failure of the establishing a system of the entitlement. He recognized that the market can the provide the entitlement provided all people can get the work and the reasonable wages. The market will not provide entitlement in the respect of the some capability improving the items there are of the commercial signification. There are the major gain of this made in the globalization, but the country has globalization at the higher possible speed and pay no attention to the lack of the social opportunities, illiteracy, and the lack of the health care. It was the creating problem for itself. Globalization need to the put in the broader constants of the social and economic policies. It could be a major force for the prosperity only if the backed by the adequate national policies in a conducive social and economic environment. Amartya Sen has a compare with the Indian Index of the Human Development with the Chinese Index Human Development, in which the China is a much higher scale, but has a compare with the Human Development of the China with the Human Development Index in Kerala, in which the Kerala better place without any correlations in the spite of the low income in comparison to so many states in India. Kerala's data on the human development show the regional variation and the mismatch between the income and human development in India state. The data also show the variation in the public section and the different state in India because the Kerala progress in the human development front is the result of the public action and not the policies of the globalization and liberalizations. Amartya Sen's choice of the technique was the research work where the argued that in the labor surplus economy, generation of the employment cannot be increased at the initial stage by the adoptions of the labor intensive techniques. He plays for the adoption for the capital intensive techniques in the developing country like the India. His argument was the capital intensive techniques strange strengthened the economic foundation of the country, which helped the further expansion of the economy. The expansion of the capital-intensive project has a snowballing effect on the development in the general, including agriculture and industry sector. The scope of the expansion of the employment opportunities is the more in capital-based project compared to labor-based project. This idea of the same cannot be said to be a totally new one because the Indian planners adopt the Mahalanobis capital-intensive four-sector model in the second 5 years plan before the publication of the choice of the technique in 1960. Amartya Sen's next contribution in the time series criterion. Amartya Sen begin with the problem of the investment planner who has to make a choice between the various techniques. This person has to start with the estimate of the real income flow of the corresponding to the each techniques. If M1 upon M2 is the ratio of the volumes of the investment in the technique 1 and technique 2 respectively, and is the R1 upon R2 is the ratio of the reinvestment that would be a possible when the investment planner choose the respective techniques. Techniques 1 will be lead to the higher or lower rate of the growth depending on the whether M1 is a greater or less than the M2 R2. But this is not enough to make the choice between the two techniques. It is a very much possible that the higher growth rate does not provide the higher level of the social welfare. Amartya Sen therefore the argue after the getting the two times series of the income flow of the have to apply the relevant rate of time discount. And next contribution is the other economic ideas. Amartya Sen was a favor of land reform. In 1962, he opined that there was a inverse relation between the farm size and the productivity. Amartya Sen believed that the productivity of the small plot of the land owned by the single person is higher because of the owner of the land can devote personal energy to cultivation. The farmer considered the land as the only the source of their income or livelihood, and he is the whole heartedly tries to increase the productivity of that the plot of the land. Personal care of these farmer help to the increase in production. Amartya Sen idea about the farm size and productivity is the controversial in the nature, but this the concept of the farm size and the productivity has not been to provide to be a correct. Amartya Sen himself the changes his view on the farm size and the productivity in 1980. Those are the certainly worthy goals, and the need for the reform had been the strong for the a long time in the over the regulated Indian economy, but the lack of the any initiatives toward the radical changes in the social policies, including those the basic education and elementary health care, in the major failure with the deeply negative implication on prospect of the improving living condition and the even on the changes of the success of the market reform themselves. According to Amartya Sen, there is a deep-seated complementarity between the various economic arguments, including market mechanism and social opportunities. On the other hand, the opportunities offered by the well-functioning market may be difficult to use the personal handicap by, say, illiteracy or the ill health. On the other hand, the person of the some educated and the fine healthy may still be unable to use his or the abilities because of the limitation of the economic opportunities related to the absence of the market or over zealous bureaucratic control or the lack of the access of the finance or the some other restraint the limit of the economic initiatives. The use of the economic opportunities by the person can open the further opportunities for the other through the backward leakages in the supply and demand. Amartya Sen has given the greatest strategic importance of the expansion of the health and the education, especially primary health and education in the process of the economic development for the having the influences that go much beyond the immediate personal effect. Amartya Sen is especially worried about the fact of the agency of the woman as the force for the changes is the one of the most neglected aspect of the development literatures. Inequalities between the men and women is one of the most crucial disparity and the social failures in the many societies, including India, and it would not decline automatically with the process of the economic growth. Conclusively, Amartya Sen more than the just economist. He is a ethical philosopher. He is a lover of the freedom and humanist. He has a focus on the poor, viewing them not a objective of the pity requiring charitable handouts, but as the disempowered fold needing the empowerment, education, health, nutrition, gender, equality, safety, net in the time of the distress, all are the needed to empower people. State should be played rather than the taking over the means of the production while the neglecting the social sector. Other this the ground Saints has influenced by the IMF and the World Bank so much that today they sometimes sound like the Saints himself. In this section, we will complete the all concept of the related Amartya Sen. So also we explain the contribution in Amartya Sen in economy, and also all of these series related videos you will the get in the playlist and description box. So we will see you next video in next new topic. So thank you.